Hello there, welcome to Transmission Vampire. I am John, also known as the Bearded Vampire, as you well know by the fact that you're on my channel. Yeah, if you don't know who I am then, well, welcome, basically. As you can see by the background, I've got a little bit of a thing sorted out for this series now, unlike the last one where it was a bit off it. Because I haven't really put much thought into it, but I have now. I love this little picture. I love this little teethy, vampire-y, smiley type thing. But no, the actual review is the other week. I watched a film called Vampyr. Spelled the same way that I spell my vampire. No, that's not why I spelt my name this way. It's from 1932, well 31/32 from what I've read, by Carl Theodor Dreyer, or Dreyer. I don't know how you pronounce that last name. And it's like one of the early kind of first vampire films ever made. Obviously that was like Nosferatu in 1922. Then obviously you had a few Bela Lugosi films around this kind of era, but this was a German, I'm not entirely sure what it was, because the intro apparently said that the original audio was lost. It was originally recorded in German, French and English, so I'm not sure how that worked back in the 1930s. Whether it's recorded it and then dubbed it over or what, I don't know. In the other languages, I'm not sure. But apparently it was recorded in those three languages. Then apparently the audio was lost, and then with the help of certain places, it did explain all this in the original titles of the copy that I've got. They found recordings of it and we kind of introduced it all together and everything. We hooked it up and we looped it and everything. The version that I've got, I don't know if it's the only version left, audio, but I've got it in German with English subtitles. But it has a few scenes of just writing, which is in German, and then obviously I've got like the English translation underneath it. Really awkward because they overlap each other, so it's hard to distinguish like the English writing. But I say it's from 1931/32 from what they say. My source says 32, and well, the video that I've got says 32, but they say 31/32, so I'm a lot more likely to believe them. On film itself is about a guy who's, from what the description says in the intro, he's kind of transfixed and fantasized about the dark arts and vampires and black magic and stuff like that. So he goes on a trip, comes across this house, kind of motel-y hostel type thing, gets a room in there, and then weird stuff starts to happen. For example, this guy from a local kind of church or castle or whatever comes into his room, which is while it's locked. He actually managed to unlock it and walk into his room, talk to him, tell him that the girl must not die, blah 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 blah. Leaves a note, like a little package, which says, "Open up on my death." And then he goes away, and then a few weird things happen. He goes into this building, discovers that this is where this guy lives. He then gets shot, and he tries to kind of get into the building. His servants let him in, blah 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 blah. They can't save him. His, by the sound of it, this person's daughter has already been attacked by a vampire because she's feeling really weak and kind of as she's drifting off and so on. And this is the person that she says must not die, because obviously if she dies she would then become a vampire, blah blah blah. But you know, all this is kind of happening at a really slow pace. There's a few kind of like really artsy kind of segments in it. The main guy goes to, I can't remember what his name is. The main guy goes to this building, and he sees kind of shadows moving about and doing things, but there's nothing there to give the shadows off. There's a guy that sat on a bench, just sat still, and a shadow comes and sits next to him on the wall, and then the guy stands up and the shadow moves with him. So it's all arty, technique-y kind of weirdness going on, which was apparently quite prolific in films of that kind of era, like the whole art house movements and so on. But he had like really kind of trippy music, and like he goes up to a guy and says, "Did I hear a child?" And the guy goes, "No, there is no child." "What about the dog then?" "No, there is no dog." And he goes, "But there is no dog and no child, or no child and no dog," or something like that. And I was like, well, what was he hearing then? You know, it was. It's a bit trippy in places, to say the least, but it's a really good film. The action doesn't really kick in until about half an hour or so to go. At one point, he's sitting on a bench outside, and I don't know what happens to him, but he leaves his body, like there's a physical kind of shadow kind of thing still on the bench, but he's like a physical manifestation of him walking around, and he goes to buildings and watches stuff happen and go on, and weird stuff happens, and then he goes back to his body, and then it's normal again. It's hard to explain, you'd really have to watch it, but it's very trippy in places. But basically the vampire himself doesn't really appear in it until possibly about 20-25 minutes from the end. And it's not like a vampire. You don't see his fangs, you don't see him kind of being kind of dark and mysterious or anything like that. It's all really weird. What you do get is this book, this package that the old guy left him, not to be opened until his death, kind of thing. That turned out to be a book about vampires and their lore and how you can defeat them and what they do and how you go about doing stuff like that. And as the guy's reading it, we see a picture of it on the screen, and then obviously the subtitles are at the bottom. So that's really the only bit that you really get of knowing it as a vampire, is that it tells you in this book that it is a vampire. There's one scene where the hero in it is actually in a coffin, like the scenes like when he's left his body kind of thing. He goes in and looks at a coffin and it's him. But not him kind of thing, and it's all really weird, but it is a very good film. It's one that I would definitely recommend if you're into vampires and you've not seen it. It's definitely a must-watch film. Like I say, purely because it's one of the early ones, and they're kind of worth watching just to see how they've influenced modern films. Got white hair there, not white hair there. Oh, I don't know. So yeah, it's a good film. Very weird, very trippy. It's only was it an hour and 15, an hour and 13, an hour and 15 minutes long? So very short. But like I say, nothing really happens in it in the first possibly 38 to 45 minutes. And then bam, everything all happens. The hero comes and saves the day, and they get lost in the fog, and the bad guy kind of gets a stake through his heart. The bad guy's accomplice kind of gets drowned in flour by the looks of it. Gets kind of buried in flour in a flour mill. It's all. It's a film that I'm gonna have to watch again to try and make any sense from. If I can try and get it in English, I think that might help a little bit. So maybe buy it on DVD and Blu-ray or whatever, and hopefully that there's like an English dubbed version to try and make any sense out of it. I'm not sure. No, it is well worth watching. It's not the trippiest film I've seen, but it is a very trippy film. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and ghouls, is that. The end. I've got another one coming up, probably middle of next month. I'm not sure what I'm gonna watch. I've got an idea. But I'm gonna keep it under wraps. I'm gonna keep it up here for the time being. It's a modern one. We've gone from 1920s, 1930s. I'm gonna go right up to the 1990s now. Obviously, I'll go back in time and do stuff like Hammer Horrors as well, once I can get my hands on them, and all the cheap films that I've got lying around. But for now, for this one, because I've done two old ones, I feel like I should do a fairly modern-ish one. So yeah, I'll leave it here. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you all next month. Bye.